welcome to maybe a little special edition of the Scenic View podcast. We're in here a day early. The governor's state budget proposal came out today, Wednesday, March 19th, and we're here to talk about it. I'm Jonathan Owens, your host / communications director. With me is Artis Watkins, the executive director of Scenic, and government relations director Suzanne Beasley, and Sam Klein, our podcast producer. We're in here on a beautiful Wednesday afternoon to talk all about what Governor Stein has proposed. And take it away, Suzanne. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call you out like that. We got this budget, I guess, around 11 o'clock today? Is that about right? It was maybe a little bit of a surprise for us, just out of the blue, but we were expecting it this week. So let's just talk about it, I guess. Let's just dive right in. He has the high-level highlights for our members are always the pay raises and bonuses. In his proposal, he has a 2% pay raise this year only for state employees across the board. And then also a $1,000 bonus and some extra bonus leave depending on years of service, if I read that correctly. For retirees, there's a 2% bonus, not a cost of living adjustment.
Yeah, that's so confusing. A COLA is a cost of living adjustment, and that is something that is recurring, that increases your base benefit or your salary if you were active. So it's a bonus. It doesn't have anything to do with a COLA. It's a bonus.
So in his budget, he does call it a cost of living bonus. It's a one-time cost of living adjustment, which is basically just...
Yeah, that's become popular in recent years. Since there's not been a cost of living adjustment, somebody decided, let's just start calling the bonus the cost of living bonus. And a bonus is inherently not a cost of living adjustment because it's not there the next year.
Right.
Yeah.
So it didn't try to keep up with anything. It tried to patch a hole, and then a hole gets put back in your ship January the next year, or in this case, because of the fiscal year of the state, July of the next year.
Just seems like that's the trend for the last few years, that they're just going to start doing bonuses every year for retirees. And we've talked about why that is on several occasions.
Yeah, the retirement system's built to produce its own COLA from investment gains, and obviously investment gains have not been enough to sustain the pension administrative costs and then provide a cost of living adjustment. So that leaves us going to the legislature every session and asking for funding.
Speaking of funding, the governor's budget actually doesn't fully fund the retirement system. We've talked about in recent years, the legislature has contributed a good amount to the retirement system to keep it going. Obviously, employees contribute 6% a month, faithfully always have. The legislature in the past had some times where it contributed literally nothing. And after the system suffered from it, they've been trying to make up for that. But the governor's budget underfunds by $206 million across 2 years.
The retirement system.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he can make that up with Bitcoin investments.
Oh my gosh. No, we are not advocating the Bitcoin.
I mean, has that happened in recent years? Is that like a new... Seems like it's always been funded to me, right?
No. Well, obviously, like I said, in recent years, yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Whatever the actuarially required contribution was. Certainly Treasurer Falwell was really adamant about that because his concern was this unfunded liability that would occur and risk the system over time. So we'll find out where Treasurer Briner stands on this. The ball's in his court now.
Yeah.
But this is a whopping underfunding of the retirement system. So for our retiree listeners, we will stay on this.
Yes.
I wanted to touch on that because our retirees have been the most vocal about the raise situation in recent years. And I'm glad that we started off with them this time talking about the budget.
Right? Well, and I mean, ask anybody, can they live on what they've been living on forever now with no actual increase? And just a bonus of a percentage of retirement pay. And retirement pay is already a greatly diminished amount from what you were making with the state. And then you take just a 2% part of that
might get a tank of gas and
maybe
groceries, a little bit of groceries.
Which leads us to the other side, the active employee 2% raise. What are your thoughts on that? And then, let's just start with that, I guess. I have some other thoughts, but...
Everybody's looking at me.
Yeah.
Okay. So the governor, we talked about it on the podcast last week. After the state of the state, it was very clear. Governor Stein has a real desire to make North Carolina the best paying state in the Southeast for teachers. I think that's a laudable goal. The Southeast is not really the most impressive in pay for anything, but certainly you're not going to get people to go into the teaching profession if you don't pay them better. And so he suggested a 10.6% average teacher raise over 2 years. That's not problematic if you could give equity and do the exact same thing for the rest of state government, because we have a 20% vacancy rate across state government, and that is 20% vacant out of a number of state employees that is down by 24% from what we had working for the state 15 years ago. So our population's grown by 16%. We've got 24% less people trying to take care of that increased population. 20% of those positions are vacant, and you're going to offer them 2%.
I don't mean to get into the weeds, but, there's like local supplements for teachers as well, whereas there's no local supplements for prison employees or...
Yeah. And, that's going to be a thing in the schools, because the certified personnel are the teachers and the school administrators. So your principals, assistant principals, again, your teachers are central office folks. They're the ones that are going to get the 10.6% over 2 years under Stein's proposal. Now, your teacher assistants, your technicians, your clerical, your other non-certified folks who work to keep our schools going, who we're also having a hard time retaining, they're with the rest of state government in Stein's proposal,
2%.
getting the 2%. So the total amount being proposed to be spent on teacher and administrator increases is $726 million over the 2-year period. And to take the other folks in the schools as an example, they're down here $18 million. So $18 million on folks that work in schools who aren't teachers or administrators.
Yeah. And the teacher raises are each year, so 2 years, whereas the rest of us only get the...
Just 1 year.
It's a proposal for 1 year for everybody else. And then correctional officers do get, in Governor Stein's proposal, 6.5% 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Again, since it's 1 year and not 2, Governor Stein's point about the teacher raises is, look, we got a crisis of people leaving the teaching profession. Well, we have a crisis where we have more than 60% vacant prisons in terms of employees. That's the most dangerous thing I can think of. And he's proposing 4% less than he is for the teachers.
So the bonus, the $1,000 bonus in the first year, I can see where that would be popular. I think that people appreciate that.
Something on top of...
I mean, the raise is obviously the goal.
To share a little bit of the gravy, so to speak.
Yeah, where does that come from, I guess? That's non-recurring.
It would be one-time money. And my fear there is, who's going to say in the legislature, okay, we're going to spend that one-time money there and not on hurricane relief?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't seem like pay needs to be pay. Same reason for retirees that it needs to be a real COLA. Just getting something 1 year and then getting that taxed at the bonus level, which is a big hit. So you're not getting $1,000, to be clear.
Yeah.
True.
But just getting something 1 year isn't changing your life. Obviously, inflation is far exceeding 2%.
And we're talking about premium increases coming.
And there we have it. Then you start going behind.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was going to get to next. So you have the State Health Plan Board of Trustees considering a premium increase. I can see a scenario where some employees may lose money in their check in their take-home pay.
If the legislature just adopted this, all the state employees would.
Yeah.
2%?
Yeah.
Yeah, they all would.
That was actually a common comment that I saw on our Facebook post about the governor's budget, was people saying, with the premium increases, 2% is just going to put us further in the hole than we already are.
I mean, I agree with them because they haven't even heard the whole proposal. We don't know how much. It's not just premiums.
Yes.
Out-of-pocket maximums, deductibles, specialist visits, drug copays. By the time you add all of this up, it'll take your paycheck away faster than anything. So, I would assume they all go backwards if all they get is 2%.
And North Carolina is the most expensive state in the union for
Can't say it enough times, John.
Say it louder for the people in the back.
We're number one.
Yeah.
Maybe the beauty of the moment is that this is the governor's proposal, and it's just the beginning of the budget process. So the legislature ultimately makes the final version of the budget. So we've still got a ways to go. But the governor's budget is the ceiling for the budget proposal. So
this is kind of a low ceiling, if you will.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Governor Stein said he really wants to continue the spirit he's got of cooperation with the General Assembly. And I thought, well, you're doing a great job because this is setting that bar so low in terms of how to take care of the workers. It's not hard to match it or beat it. And it's a hard pill to swallow for workers, especially because the governor is in a different position than even the legislature. So many of the state workers, through their agencies they work for, which are cabinet agencies, their ultimate boss is the governor.
Right.
That's their boss, who is recognizing some people to get more than his own people. That's tough. That's a very tough pill to swallow.
And you can never lose with equity.
Never.
That's always been our message. That will continue to be our message.
Pay equity.
Yeah,
Right.
pay equity.
Yeah.
Thanks, John.
I don't want to get into that.
Yeah.
Well, we like all equity for what it's worth.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're giving out, when you have a tight budget, equity's the only way to go. Again, okay, I think it's a cool idea. Become the paragon in the Southeast for educators. Now, that sounds like something you do. You make a bold move like that. Definitely go for something like that when you've got so much surplus. It's just one of those amazing years. So you want to do something bold. I don't see how you do it when you yourself say there's a fiscal cliff coming for the next few years. So this, according to Governor Stein, is his last chance to do anything meaningful.
Yeah. That was a good point you brought up earlier when we were talking to the
I'm
press
very
on some
confused
things.
by it. Like, you yourself said it's going to get bad after this year. Okay, if that's the truth, and this is the last little token pay you can give state workers for potentially several years more, 2%?
Yeah.
That's it.
It just seems kind of a bizarre world to me in that you have the governor saying, oh, we're about to fall off a financial cliff, and the other side saying, no, we're not. It just seems like those are reversed.
Well, and then the governor says, and yet I'm going to spend $700 million and we're going to become number one in pay, but just for one group. That's weird to me. I don't get it. And what it does to public workers is it makes them feel the way public workers all over the country are feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And the Governor Stein that I've known since he was Senator Stein is not the kind of person who would like making people feel that way, but he needs to know 100% that's what they're feeling because they're letting us know loud and clear that they feel he doesn't give them any more credit than public workers are getting at the federal level or anywhere else. It's just right now it's like popular to hate on public employees and not to do for them.
And let's be honest, if there's a real concerted DOGE effort here, they're not going to go after teacher positions.
No.
It'll be very unpopular, but we're the kind of the low-hanging fruit, if you will.
And there's
the punching bag.
Had a conversation with an appropriations chair about, there's like 16,000 vacant positions in North Carolina right now. And so we see what's coming ahead with, but there was a little bit of talk about, maybe taking away some of those positions and reallocating that money. So that discussion led into what agencies need the lapse salary money for, not to mention that we need those people in those positions to fully provide the services that taxpayers are paying for here in our state.
Right.
So,
right. Because I get it, the whole idea that certainly trying to be number one in teacher pay is something you're doing for children. But let's think about this. Newborn screenings. When a child is born, newborn screenings are being delayed that affect their health because we don't have enough state employees. Elevators are very tough to inspect on time at this point because of vacancies. What is on bottles of chemicals that are sold? Pesticides and things that the Department of Agriculture makes sure are what they say they are. Our children, if we don't have enough state employees to get that done, may get exposed to something that can hurt them gravely. So caring about children has to be an overall thing, right? And not just when they're at school. That's 7-8 hours of their day.
Somebody said this to me today, a colleague at the building, not long after the budget came out and everybody's over there, little chatter going on. And someone said, well, you know what? Those teachers have got to have a clear road after a hurricane in order to get to the school.
Right. A safe bridge to go across.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And everyone else, right? I mean,
and everyone else. The infrastructure. I had that conversation as well this week. State employees, retired state employees are the ones responsible for the infrastructure of this great state. And the reason why people want to keep coming here is because we've got good infrastructure.
Yeah.
We're not going to maintain that at this rate.
So where do we go from here, Suzanne? Which side goes first this year?
Senate's got it first this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess we don't have any indication when that'll come out, right?
Not yet. And I had just made my rounds yesterday. So I did talk to some appropriations chairs who were like, we haven't even gotten to the pay raise portion.
Well, that's concerning.
Well, you gotta take it with a grain of salt,
Let us
too.
spend the rest of our money first, and then we'll
they're not going to tell us everything they're doing, but...
Well, the concern, obviously, and Suzanne kind of alluded to it earlier, we heard it when Director Meyer of the Office of State Human Resources was testifying before the Oversight Committee, I think, last week.
House Oversight.
House Oversight. Somebody on that House Oversight Committee made a comment. One person made a comment about pay isn't everything to people. Some of them want more vacation. Okay, we're hearing from people that pay is, in fact, everything because they can't pay their light bill with a day off. And we're also hearing in that committee, we heard something about the 16,000. And could we use some of those, take some of those positions? Now, these are positions that are not unneeded. They're just not able to be filled because we don't pay enough.
Yeah.
But as expected, when they've had to sit there because we can't fill them and we're not competitive, now people are looking at them thinking, we can just take some of those. And
we're getting by, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, you're working people
exactly. Yeah.
to the point of depression and burnout and
newborns are getting delayed in their screening, and
our food sources
autopsies are getting delayed, and all the things we've talked about a million times. This has effects on the taxpayers. So it's like, we don't need these. If the employees could come in and talk to you about it, they'd explain to you exactly why you need and exactly how dangerous in some cases it is for the people in your district. But I am afraid that that's where they're going to want to go. That or say, it'd just be cheaper to privatize.
But it won't.
Never is.
No.
We've been there, done that. The prisons, there were 2 privatized prisons and the state had to pull them back.
So we're going to get a little light for Sam to push whenever she wants to speak, because I've seen her over here. She's wanting to say something.
You got to jump in, girl.
I'm thinking that the legislature is sitting there thinking, if we get rid of the jobs, the vacancy rate lowers because we don't have those jobs anymore. They don't exist.
I mean,
It looks like a resounding
And it
success.
looks like, we're full
because it's all there. You're absolutely, you've got
you hit the nail on the head.
And think about it. We've reduced costs. We've brought that vacancy rate down. And then people hate the idea of public employees. For the most part, they really do. If you tell them we've cut the number of employees, yay. Now, if you told them you're going to have to wait in longer lines for this, or if you're a business and you need something from the Secretary of State's office, it's going to take longer, they're like, no.
That's a key point there. I was just thinking the same thing when you were saying that. Like, yes, people hate the idea of public employees, but they also hate when their DMV lines are really long.
Yeah.
They have hearings about this DMV.
Or when they find out how unsafe they are if we don't have enough people. And then if you tell the public, hey, what if we privatize it? Ooh, I like that. Let businesses handle it. If they think they're going to pay less per hour, the people doing the jobs, if it were privatized, would make less per hour. But the company would charge you more per hour for those people's work than the state costs for public employees to do it, because that's business. They've got to make a profit. They're not there to be a charity.
Exactly. So you got to add in some profit, right?
So, but it sounds good. And if you don't deep dive into it or even shallow dive.
Quite frankly, there's not a lot of diving with most people these days.
No, it's just
see a headline and roll on.
I mean, I get it, because before I ever worked briefly for the state, I would have been easy to say, yeah, let's not have all those public employees, till you get to work for the state and get in a file cabinet. File cabinets were used at the time and realize, oh my goodness, I didn't know they did all this stuff.
Yeah.
So that's why we're here, to let you know they do all that stuff. And the retirees, the reason we can never forget them is they did all the stuff. And they did it for at least 30 years, and they did it for less than they could have made in the private sector. And they were really talented people who didn't have to be with the state for the most part. Most people, I'm not going to say everybody was anything, but most people working in the state were really, really good, and they could have worked somewhere else. But what they liked was the stability of the thought of a retirement with a cost of living, because there always was one.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get to retirement and the rules have changed. So it's a terrible breach of a promise.
It was also probably more difficult then because they didn't have all the technological advancements that we have now.
100%.
So they were doing even harder work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But your earlier point about the vacancy rate going down, that's something for us to watch. I mean, they're going to start touting that. They're going to start saying, look what we did. We lowered the... But
yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, this is part of politics.
Part of the
Everybody sells stuff the best they can. I just think, again, to sum up Governor Stein's budget, the feeling I have more than anything is confusion.
mm-hmm.
If you think we're about to go off a cliff, why are you taking on one of the most ambitious things I've ever seen and leaving your workers, for the most part, with a 2% parting gift before they spend a couple of years struggling to make it when we all know prices are going like crazy and only likely to get worse?
So recent years, we've had these discussions, maybe not in podcast form, but we all ultimately usually get to the point where we say, well, the governor's budget really doesn't matter that much in the grand scheme of things. Does it matter a little more this year because there's not a supermajority in the House?
Well, I think the speaker already indicated to the press. I saw one article that he felt like there were some areas they can't work together on. They couldn't agree. Some of the governor's proposals around tax credits and things like that, but that on salary and things like that, I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but it was something about, it looked promising there. Well, I guess so.
Here we are.
Again, it's just, if that's the bar,
Yeah.
I bet everybody's going to cooperate really well. But I am prayerful the legislature that we'll be able to convince them that this is really, it's just bad policy and that it's time to do something for folks.
One thing that I just kind of wanted to get your opinion on, I saw in there that he had mentioned doing childcare facilities at some of the state agencies and implementing some of those because there are people who choose to leave the workforce because they have childcare barriers and it's too expensive to afford it.
Yeah.
My question is, who's going to work in those facilities when we already have such a large vacancy rate? We can't even fill the other positions. Who's going to be taking care of their children while...
Yeah, I don't know that that's a question we can answer from the budget. I do see that it's like $1 million of non-recurring.
Yeah.
So that's not
And
going to cover a lot.
It's not, but we've heard from our members before. Things would be easier if they had childcare.
Yes,
on
like a
the
great
site.
idea.
So
Those 12-hour shift.
Which does make
So yeah,
sense.
going in a great direction there. However, $1 million,
It's not going to.
Doesn't do a lot for making these facilities.
and you have to make it
We've all paid for
appealing.
childcare, so we're like $1 million. Let's
That'd be
spend that.
one kid, right?
right.
Yeah, especially in Raleigh, I hear that it's really
It's
high here,
bad.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about, as an association, that it's harder to get younger people involved because of the lack of childcare
Yeah.
for our meetings and for things, like we've debated about having childcare, say at our convention where folks can come.
Yeah.
And bring
So-
their kids.
Because I did notice on the sheet we have in front of us, it said childcare barriers contribute to 34% of mothers and 20% of fathers leaving the workforce.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real problem. It really is a real problem, especially probably in the Raleigh area,
I
as I
think-
said.
I think it's a needed thing without question. With the amount of surplus that's available this year, is there going to be enough to actually do it? I don't see how
Yeah.
some of these ideas, which are good ideas,
Yeah.
I don't see how they get done within the money that we have.
I assume there's probably a couple ways to tackle it too. Like you could have it in your office or you could subsidize it in some way.
That's what I'm wondering. It was like some of these,
Like an expense report.
some of these things that will get built for employees in certain areas, I'm not going to say, and then the price for them is higher than the market,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's not solving anything. I mean, that's what I wonder.
Yeah, so I think our opinion on that would be it's a good idea, but we'd like to see how it's implemented, which gets to your question, like how do
Yeah.
you pay for that?
You're right, Sam. Devil's in the details.
So that's the governor's budget proposal. Suzanne, what can we do from here? You said the Senate is next. What can members do?
Yeah. So go to scenic.org/engage and you can find your legislators and contact them. That's what we need you to do. contact them and tell them your story. Tell them why a pay increase is important in your life. You're not just a number on a spreadsheet. So they need to hear your stories, and that's where you can start. Help continue the advocacy efforts and the fight for something meaningful in your paycheck.
All right. Just one other state employee item I wanted to mention, Artis, because we talked a little bit about it last week. NC State is hiring Kevin Howell to be their chancellor, and you said you have a connection to him, right?
Well, I went to law school with Kevin.
Okay.
He was a Tar Heel.
Oh, what? Oh, no. Then we're making major news.
So I want to be very clear about a couple things about Kevin Howell. Number one, he is about as decent, honorable, and nice a person as you will ever meet in your life. In all of political life, I don't know that I've ever known anybody I think more highly of. And he's been that same person for, like the 4 years since we graduated from law school in our 20s.
Oh, good math there.
But no, I've known him for almost 35 years. Yeah. And he is an excellent person, but he is, more importantly, not just an excellent person, but how often do you combine that with one of the smartest people around, one of the absolutely most devoted to that institution, always was.
Yeah.
He was a Tar Heel because they didn't have a law school at NC
So I
State.
think he went there for undergrad.
He went there for undergrad.
Okay.
He was actually a student body president when he was there. And he was really such an achieving person, but you wouldn't know it to talk to him because he's just as down to earth and nice as they can be. But I'm telling you, he will do amazing things there because his heart's in it. He is smart as anybody I've ever met in my life. And I'm just excited for them.
Yeah, we're happy for you, Kevin.
Congrats to him, and we look forward to working with him as well, right? Yes. We have a lot of members at state. So.
Yeah, and they had a good one in Chancellor Woodson in there. That's pretty rare that you just luck out several times there.
I guess it's not too strange. Carolina has a Duke grad as their chancellor now, right? So I guess all the institutions.
Well, you know how a lot of people won't count their grad school as.
Did you hear how I said Duke grad?
I know. Well, I really think you are becoming some kind of closet Duke fan, but we'll talk about that later.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you're really thinking about you had a moment.
You've thrown me off now.
Yeah, because you had a moment of introspection.
People really think this about me.
Felt wrong, didn't it, John?
Yeah, it really does. So I guess we'll just get to our question of the week.
John's wacky weird question of the week.
All right. So spring has sprung, and you can feel the pollen in the air. I was driving home yesterday it was raining. I think it was Monday, and you can see a little bit of a green tint to everything. My windshield's a little green. Does the pollen bother you guys too much?
It rained yesterday.
Wait, is our question of the week? No. Do we have seasonal allergies?
Yeah, pollen is awful.
I was just making banter there.
Thank goodness for medications.
Well, just making sure. I didn't know if we're going to start doing. Has anybody had a colonoscopy? Let's talk.
Let's talk. Oh no, I did go to never mind. So
you almost told it. Yeah, I think everybody in this room deals with seasonal. I think most people in this state do. Yeah.
Well, and they get worse as you get older. So
it really does.
Isn't it supposed to be like the number of deciduous trees, and we have some we have some crazy high number. Yeah, I think when you look around and you see a lot of beauty.
I don't think it's deciduous. I think it's evergreends. Like pine trees and ragweed, those produce a lot of pollen.
Deciduous and I don't know.
Deciduous.
Just every freaking thing is blooming.
That they lose their leaves.
Oh, okay. I was thinking that was okay.
Everything's just blooming, and there's pollen, y'all.
But my question of the week is, what is your favorite springtime activity? And I'll start this one. I guess I love. It's like the start of baseball season, right? So opening day is, they played 2 games in Japan the last 2 days, the Dodgers and the Cubs. But yeah, baseball is about here. And then second, I guess, would be the Masters, which is in a few weeks. But that's always just so beautiful with the azaleas. And it's so minor sports related, obviously. Suzanne, I always go to you first. So what's going on?
I have grandbabies now. So obviously anything playing outside will be fun. They're both big enough to run around and, go down the slide and.
Don't do that again.
I won't do that again.
Yeah, I heard you got hurt on the slide.
I did I had a butt plant bam.
Ooh.
It was unfortunate, and I am too old to do that. So I think anything outside, obviously with the kids, but anything blooming too. I mean, flowers. I went out and cut I call them buttercups. I have them in a little jar now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my.
Dandelions? Is that what that is?
Daffodils.
Oh, okay. Sam, what's up?
So I've lived in a park or near a park since I've moved to Raleigh, and it's become one of my favorite things to do in the spring. I will grab a basic sheet from a bed set, and I will take my dog on a walk, and he has a 30-foot leash that I have for him. And so I'll just put him on the 30-foot leash, lay out the sheet, have a little snack tackle box, and read a book while he just plays.
Nice.
Oh, that's perfect.
very-
Because it's
box.
not too hot at that point.
Yeah.
Once it gets too hot, I'm not doing it.
So I saved artist for last because I didn't tell her what the question was.
Right.
So I'll give her a little chance to.
I was stumped at first, but I don't know why, because if I get a chance, and I did last weekend, fishing is what March is about.
Oh, yeah.
Because the inland water starts to some of the inland waterways will get warm enough that you can actually do some fishing. And I wouldn't go out in January or February and do it anyway, because I hate the cold too much these days. But March, it can be cold out there on the boat, but you can hit it just right. I hit it just right. It was awesome.
I see some boats. I drive adjacent to Jordan Lake on the way to work, and I've started to see a few boats out there. So in summer, it'll be packed.
Yeah, and the lakes, it's going to be warm enough.
You go to Jordan Lake, or?
I used to a bunch.
Okay.
No, but I was saltwater fishing over the weekend for red drum.
There you go.
Because North Carolina's got the red drum. We've got the best ones.
Just keep
Biggest
the water
one
clean.
on record, I think, was
that-
Buxton.
Is that murder backwards?
Oh, my gosh.
Red drum.
Redfish. Some people call it.
Red rum.
Red rum. Okay.
But we digress.
But I digress. That is the Scenic View podcast for this week. Be sure to read your scoop and email us at podcast@scenic.org if you have any questions for us, and we'll see you next week.